Just being passionate about your work. I tend to work a lot, but even if you don't, even if you just do the normal hours, like somewhere between a third to half of your adult life. So why not be passionate about it and really pour yourself into it and try to do something great and beautiful?
What happens when a network engineer gets fed up with the outdated tools we have available and decides to build something better? In today's episode, I'm talking with Anil, co-founder and CEO of Meter, a company that's not just building new networking hardware, they're building the backbone of the modern internet.
Internet, eh?
Today, we're diving into his journey from humble beginnings as a networking engineer to launching a company that designs and operates vertically integrated networks for some of the biggest businesses in the world. If you're into networking, cybersecurity, or just want to know what it takes to really level up your career in tech, this is an episode you don't want to miss. With that said, let's dive into this week's episode. Well, welcome to the show, Neil. Do you mind kind of giving us a bit of background about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, Dakota, thanks so much for having me on. My name is Anil Varanasi. I started off studying networking in college. I went to a state school in Virginia called George Mason, and a lot of lab work and working towards everybody is their CCNA and dreaming of CCIE type thing. And then I've been working in networking, hardware, and security the last decade or two. And then about a decade ago, with my brother Sunil, we started Meter. Meter builds networking hardware, software, and operations entirely vertically integrated. We help power some of the largest companies in the world, from large financial institutions to public companies, etc. And we not only build the hardware, but write everything from the firmware, operating systems, distributed systems, the APIs, and applications, and then deploy networking and help maintain it. And our customers are IT and network engineers. So networking is something I've cared about a lot and have been working in for, over 2 decades now.
Let's just dive right on into that. What inspired you to co-found Meter, and what were some of your challenges like in your early days when you're starting out?
Oh man, I think the challenge is enough will take a couple hours. But with a lot of these things, it's easy to claim it was some sort of Newtonian moment or an apple fell on your head and you knew exactly what you were going to do. It wasn't like that for us. The reason we ended up starting Meter was actually relatively simple. We cared about networking a lot, but it felt like not only were there not new networking companies that were getting started that built the entire stack, nobody seemed really to care about building beautiful products. And I'm talking about everything from how the hardware is designed to the choices that are made to how the software is built, from the operating systems and routing algorithms to how the APIs are built and how the dashboards are built. Even if you look at networking dashboards, which I'm sure, Dakota, you've seen a fair amount in your time and every day now,
Yeah.
there hasn't been great, beautiful software for network engineers in a long time. And that confused us a lot because the simple bet we had was that internet usage will skyrocket and we all will use internet more than we currently do. Then we didn't understand why they weren't great products. We looked around with other things we were using, from computers to phones to SaaS software and other things. It seemed like there were some great things coming all the time for those things, but not for networking. So we wanted to fill that void. And we also felt somebody should do it fully integrated. So we do everything from ISP, routing, switching, indoor Wi-Fi, outdoor Wi-Fi, security, layer 7 security, DNS security, SDN, VPN, and indoor cellular, all integrated in the same platform. And you're not wrestling with many different pieces of software and trying to integrate and really fighting the system. It didn't make sense to us why somebody didn't say, I'm going to build a great product, spend a few years doing it, and then really get into it. And then for the challenges, I think anytime you're building something from the ground up, it is incredibly hard. And then anytime you're trying to build something that's integrated across all these different parts of stack, it's almost nearly impossible. We got really lucky with the people we ended up working with some of the choices we made. But the first few years were really, really tough. We were building a new architecture. We would barely get it working. At one point, I had a beard as long as yours because I was doing nothing except coding and working on hardware. And my parents, because I work with my brother, they were immensely concerned for my brother and I. They're like, "What are you guys doing? When we saw you last, you looked normal. What happened to you? You seem like you're barely sleeping," anything like that. So getting it off the ground as a new networking company that's building something from the ground up, that was really hard.
I could only imagine just the amount of time and dedication you put into this was is just amazing. And let's kind of step back a little bit. Like what were some pivotal moments in your career or decisions you made that kind of helped progress you from being the network engineer into this leadership role that you are?
I ended up going to college when I was really young. I was 16 when I went to college. And one of the things that happens is when you're young, you're actually more open to ideas than you are when you're older. You tend to actually be open to some new ideas and things. So there's two things that really stuck with me when I was younger, when I was kind of trying to decide what to work on and what I would be interested in. One is either when you're studying or when you're going to work, as much as you are picking the company, make sure to pick your boss or make sure to pick your professor. So I think what was pivotal for me is there were a couple of professors at George Mason that were working in industry because it was so close to DC. So much of Northern Virginia is working with the government. There were folks that were working on actual day-to-day systems with the government and then, teaching for part-time at the university. And I ended up getting lucky and picking a couple of great professors who had industry knowledge with what they were actually doing day to day rather than just theoretical. So that was super pivotal to actually hear from someone on what is it like to actually work on networking in the real world. So that was one. And I think second is probably one of the most fortunate things in my life is my brother turned out to be one of the smartest people in the entire world I've ever met. And I don't know how actionable this advice is, but pick your brother and pick a great brother. And having somebody that you can bounce ideas off of and see, like, hey, I'm working on this. What do you think? We've now been working together close to 2 decades now. And that part is really great. And then the last is, there's this kind of this old Bob Dylan song, and then I think like a good Jobs quote or whatever. It's the thing of like the world around you is just made up by people just like you. I think sometimes when we're driving down the street, we look at stop signs and traffic lights and be like, some great system, whatever. But it turned out it's just like another normal person that just decided what color green should be on the traffic lights, what color red should be.
Yeah.
So I think we were also fortunate to have parents that always told us from the beginning that, if you want to do something, it's likely that it's your choice. It's just other people also just decided. So I'm not sure what specifically kind of got us to this, but the ingredients were that, we care about networking. We ended up finding the right people. And then had parents that helped us propel, saying like you can just do what you want as long as it's not like illegal or hurting someone.
That's really cool.
It's not illegal. It's suspect, but it isn't illegal.
At a young age, I developed the interest in networking. My high school offered the CCNA program.
Nice.
And so I went through that at high school. And then after high school, I started to go to college and it just wasn't my thing at the time. I just couldn't focus. So I ended up dropping out and just doing jobs to put food on the table and keep a roof over our head. Got married, had kids.
Nice.
And it was later in life that I was like, I'm really tired of doing something that I hate. I was miserable at my job. I was making really good money, but I was miserable. And I decided that I wanted to make the career shift and come back into tech. And since then, I've been very fortunate. When I decided, okay, I'm done. I'm making this change. I really dedicated everything. I spent countless hours. You can ask my wife, and I couldn't have done it without the support of my family standing behind me, believing in me that I can do it. It was for that reason I was able, that dedication, I was able to go from an entry level role to a director level role within 3 years of entering the tech field. and no degree still. Yeah, sometimes I wonder if I should go back and get it, but I'm at the point in my life. I'm like,
Nah.
it's not going to add any value anymore. I just going to continue growing.
Yeah, it actually might be negative. You've got the lore of not having a college degree, so you should keep it that way.
Exactly. It is that determination, I think, it plays a big role. Like, once you kind of decided that this was you, like, did that kind of help keep you going? And, you seeing that progress you were making, did that kind of like fuel the fire for you?
Yeah, I think definitely like once you start seeing progress, I think it really helps a lot. And then the other thing that usually helps is I'm a big believer in just cold emailing people. So maybe a slight tangent here.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's say you go to the New York Times bestseller list of books. Um, you kind of imagine that it's millions of people that it takes to get on the bestseller list. Usually it's a few 100,000 copies if a book is bought that they end up on that list. We know from Kindle data and other things that 70% of people buy a book and never even open it. And then of that other 30%, only about 60% actually even read the book or even finish the book. And the percentage that end up finishing a book and end up actually liking the book and end up having an opinion about a book starts becoming like a reverse pyramid where it's just like very few people.
Right.
So one of the things I found, similarly even in networking, is you can go to the library, you can go to your high school teacher or your college, whatever books you get, or even look up online. One of the other things that kind of helped us a lot is we would just literally cold email the people that wrote the textbooks and say, hey, here's how we're thinking about it. Here's some questions I have. And 9 times out of 10, you would get a response back.
That's so cool.
And this is actually even 10 out of 10 if you go into research papers. So if you think about like folks working on networking research, for example, which helped us a lot when we started Meter on routing algorithms and operating systems and other things, a PhD student usually has 20 people at their dissertation at max. That means almost nobody has read their research. So if you actually email them,
oh my gosh,
saying, hey, I read your research, or I read the paper, I read this protocol you wrote, or other things, I have these questions, and then would you be willing to talk about it? I guarantee you they're ecstatic to talk about it because they spent 6 years working on it and have nobody to talk to.
Oh my gosh, I could only imagine. So I run a mentorship community for people trying to get into tech, and so many people will go out and buy a book and just hope that they absorb the knowledge through osmosis just by owning it. Most of the time it sits on the desk, it sits on a bookshelf.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, you got to like actually use that and not just read it. Then you got to actually apply that knowledge.
Yeah.
And you're taking that even a step further by reaching out like, hey, I read your, cold emailing is great, but a lot of people also just ask. They don't contribute to the conversation. They just give me.
That's right.
You're like, hey, I read this and I think it's great. And I want to get your opinion as a product expert of this. That's a really like powerful tip right there.
Yeah, I think that's true across my entire life. So let's say I watch a great movie, but it's like a small movie or something like that. I usually just end up emailing the director, like, I thought this was great, like this was confusing, whatever. And usually you get a response. Same thing on GitHub projects, same thing on software. There's a lot of great like wireless and networking software that I really like that are built by like, small groups or 1 or 2 people. And when you email them saying like, how did you build this? Or how did you think about this feature? You just get a response back. But that's true all the way up. It can be any product, anything. I think the thing probably that's hard to imagine is the things we all use are just made by people.
Right.
We just don't imagine them the other way around. We know when we're making things that it's people behind it. But the other way around too, you can actually just like email people or even like Twitter DM them or LinkedIn message them, whatever. And if it's a thoughtful thing and not like some marketing or fluffy message that goes out, but if you're genuinely like, hey, I read this, I found it interesting, this is the questions I have, or even if it's a GitHub project, maybe you come across like a good script, usually can be made a little bit better, right? Like you can make it a little bit more performant, or add something to the README, something like that. And you can contribute a little bit. And those are all the things that we did when we were super young, that paid off dividends for us for many years, because you end up meeting the right people who actually like making things. And those are the people you want to learn from, is people that are actually making things themselves. It might be a book or anything, even a podcast like you are. People that end up taking an initiative and making things are like, they're the best people.
Alrighty, quick break. Because if you've ever felt stuck trying to break into tech, this next part is for you. One of the hardest parts about getting into the field, especially roles like network engineering or software development, is knowing what to actually learn, how to build experience, and how to stand out on a piece of paper. That's exactly where this video sponsor, Springboard, comes in. Springboard offers a software engineering career track that is totally online, self-paced, and is designed to get you job ready. We're talking real-world projects, hands-on experience with front and back-end tools, and even AI-powered stuff like writing better ChatGPT prompts. And best of all, you'll get matched with a mentor who is actually working in the industry. They'll walk with you the entire way. You're also not going to be going through this alone. Springboard has an active Slack community where peers, mentors, and coaches are available 24/7 to help you stay motivated and get your questions answered fast. And get this, 84% of Springboard's grads land a job within 6 months of finishing their program. And if you don't, they've got a tuition back guarantee. So if you're looking to pivot into tech or just want to level up, check out Springboard. Use the link down in the description to get $1,000 off your enrollment. Yes, $1,000 off. All right, with that said, let's get back to this week's episode. Now, for people that want to move up the tech ranks, progress in their career, what do you feel are some of the key skills or mindset shifts that can help you the most?
I liked our networking program at George Mason. I think one of the things it did that I think might be helpful for others is actually getting your hands dirty and implementing things yourself. Okay, you study about networking, or you study about security, you study about programming or anything like that. Actually just doing it yourself is, orders of magnitude more fidelity than just reading about it. So, if you read about a network topology or how to do networking, you can go to eBay, buy some cheap used gear, or on Craigslist, or anywhere, and actually just set things up yourself.
Absolutely.
And when you set things up yourself and you're challenging yourself that I read this, but can I actually do it? There's a huge amount of impact there. So I think that's one. And the second is just reading the foundations books of everything. Networking is what I'm passionate about. I think if you go read Andrew Tenenbaum's textbook, right? That's a foundation textbook on networking. It's on volume 5 or volume 6 now. It's about 300 pages. Let's say you say in 6 months, I am going to deeply understand all of Tenenbaum's work in this book. My intuition is anybody that does that is probably ahead than 95% of the group who actually does that.
Yeah.
And then,
just taking those first steps, and keep the momentum going. The lives we live in are so easily distracted nowadays. It's so easy just to come home, sit down on the couch, turn on the TV, and do nothing. That is a habit you kind of got to start breaking if you want to be serious. I feel dedicate yourself to this. It takes that mindset shift and that dedication to be successful. Now, I'm very passionate about networking. Networking has always been my thing, but I feel that you can't just be a good network engineer anymore. You also have to be a security mindset as well. They really kind of start going hand in hand nowadays. And I'd like to hear kind of your opinion on that. Do you feel that, to be a really good network engineer or a networking person, how much cybersecurity do you have to be involved in as well?
I think it's a big part of it these days, because either somebody in the security department is going to depend on you, or you're sort of responsible if you're at a smaller firm. And how you set up networking, what those protocols mean, how it integrates with all the other systems, security is a huge part of it. And I think over time, things will get even more blended together. But there's not a single networking team who doesn't spend a good chunk of their time with the security counterparts.
Absolutely. And from your perspective, how has like cybersecurity changed in the like the past couple years, you feel?
Yeah, I think like there's probably one good way and one bad way. And on the bad way, I think the amount of like buzzwords and something new and shiny all the time has gone up exponentially. There's some new acronym, buzzword, something somebody makes up or some vendor makes up every week and every month now.
Yep.
And that seems to be just like skyrocketing. So it's like the bad part.
Yes.
The good way it's changed is it's deep into understanding uh, what actual problems are being solved. Yes, we hear about a lot of attacks, and yes, we hear a lot about like bad things that are happening, and there's holes in systems. But net, it's pretty amazing how secure things are. And how much good work folks in networking and cybersecurity are doing to help protect these systems. Um, you know, the mental model people should have is if people weren't doing good work, uh, there'd be like a massive attack every day. Because of how much usage there is on the internet now,
Yeah.
right? Like everything is packets in the world. Literally everything that we all do is packets. And the fact that like there aren't breaches at a massive scale constantly, I think it's really cool. I think if you ask someone 20 years ago that this is the level of usage the internet will have everywhere you go, from phone calls to messaging to payments to cars to healthcare, everything will just be on the internet. I think they would tell you is like there'll be an attack every single day. That's at a massive scale. But that hasn't happened, which is really, really cool.
No, that is crazy. And speaking of all these buzzwords and stuff, I'm going to throw in another one out there. With like AI and automation evolving, the the industry as we know it is, I think, changing even more rapidly, for better or worse. You could argue, how has like AI influenced the industry as in whole, you feel, and what should people like that are just now getting into it should expect for the future, you feel?
The simple way I think about this is two things. Um, One is if you imagine models not getting better at all, like somehow uh, we just stop working on making models better. Like this is it. It's frozen in time, and it stopped here. They're still incredibly valuable for learning and augmenting your own work. So I think the applications still haven't been built using what already has been done, even if progress is entirely stopped here today. Like no more work on models, we freeze it. It's amazing what happened in the last 5 years.
No, absolutely.
And there's a lot of ways to use them for learning and other things, like having a thing that can respond instantly to you about any topic, anything you want to go deep into. I wish I were 15 again. Uh, it's one of the great things. So that's one side. If you just even freeze it today, the value is immense. Um, then on the other side, the way I think about it is not judging where just things are today, even with the precursor I just gave, and imagining the rate of progress, not just to be the same as it's been the last 5 years, but to increase from here. What does it mean then? So if you think about where models were in 22 to where they are now imagine in 2028, not only is the rate of progress same, but actually accelerated from where it was. That's incredible. Uh, what does that mean for your work? What does that mean for what you want to do day to day? And what does that mean for your career is an important thing to constantly think about, maybe once every few months. But my default assumption today, and I might update, uh, my thinking based on new evidence that comes in, is that rate of progress not only will continue, but will speed up even more.
It's only going to grow exponential. I mean, if you look at the last, however many years, it's just like it's by a factor of two. I feel like it's doubling every year and just going to keep on growing and growing. Now, I'm curious. Like, you're a CEO, of a company. What do you look for when you're hiring tech talent? What makes people stand out to you in particular?
People that um, don't need to be told what to do and that can go find the most important problem for the company that they can go help themselves. Surprisingly, very few people in the workforce do that. You go to a company, you get a set of tasks, and you're sort of doing them. And when you finish the task for the day or the week, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to chill. Um, but the inverse of that, which is what is the most important problem for the company today? And can I help with that? If there are indications of somebody having that and having done that at their previous roles or having that mentality, usually it's a really great sign. And then somehow, especially in technology, we've been told that kindness and ambition are antonyms, that either you can be kind or either you can be ambitious. Um, what we find is that there are a group of people who are both kind and ambitious. And those are usually the types of people we're looking for.
That is true. I'll admit, I never will claim to be an expert at anything. I'm very good at things. But I've had this happen to me on two separate occasions when, interviewing for positions. After I landed the position, I asked, why did you pick me? There had to be more qualified candidates. And like, for instance, my last job, my direct manager at the time, he was like, "Oh yeah, we definitely had people that had more knowledge. We actually had someone that was quite upset because they're like, how could someone be more skilled than me? They had like a master's degree and all this." And what it came down to is I could see that not only you had the drive to learn, but the way you could articulate and communicate your skills, it was far superior. Um, you not just, I can teach you the hard skills. I can teach you how to do this job. What I can't teach you is how to, one, have that internal drive, have that, that spark, and how to communicate well with others, how to have those soft skills and stuff like that. And if you can figure out how to master both of those, I think you can go far. You're not expected to know it all half the time, but you're expected to know how to be a self starter and how to figure it out.
Yep.
And that's the biggest thing. Like when I'm doing prep work with people that are like going to get ready to do an interview, I say, they're going to ask you questions I can guarantee you that you don't know. I do that intentionally when I do an interview. And what I'm looking for is how they're going to work through that problem. Are they going to just like give up and you say, I can't do that, or, ask for help?
I can't do it.
Or are they going to go to Google? Are they going to start going to their known sources and start gathering information? Are they going to try to figure it out themselves? And that I can tell, like, I'm not going to have to handhold them the entire process.
Right.
I feel like the workforce sometimes misses that. And yeah, I mean, that is some really good advice there.
Yeah, I think overall, just being passionate about your work. I tend to work a lot, but even if you don't, even if you just do the normal hours, if you will, it's like somewhere between a third to half of your adult life. So why not be passionate about it, and really pour yourself into it and try to do something great and beautiful.
one thing I want to ask is, so many people struggle with imposter syndrome. And I'm curious, like, how have you ever dealt with that, first of all, in your career? And, how have you kind of worked through that?
I have personally not dealt with that myself because I think the school I went to and the professors I work with, because they were in industry and other things, we got drilled it into our heads that nobody knows anything. They're just making it up constantly.
Yeah.
I think, you end up forming a point of view, thinking that that's the right point of view. Then you end up becoming dogmatic about it, and then you force the world towards that. But that's how the world got created. It's not because somebody knew something, it's because somebody decided something. There's some fundamental truths in the world, physics and math and music and language. But I think after that, not much to have imposter syndrome about. And, most of us are just making it up.
If you could give anyone one piece of advice that to someone who is starting their career in tech, what would that one piece of advice be?
So this might be a bit controversial, but uh,
I love it.
I actually don't think anybody should take advice from anyone.
Oh, okay.
I think you should learn things, books and podcasts and blogs and all these things. I think you can learn things, but it's far better to sort of build your own viewpoint on how to do something. Because advice, the hard part about advice is every situation is so different. You cannot run the same experiment twice at all. Everything from like financial situation to timing to industry to luck, whatever you want to ascribe to it. Every situation is so different. I think if people end up taking advice on the surface, you might end up applying things that are not applicable to you at all. But I do think when you hear someone and read something or listen to something, understanding where they're coming from, that probably is way more important than any surface level advice. Because here's the thing, somebody will tell you, as soon as you wake up, go look at the sun. And somebody will tell you, no, like sit in the dark to meditate, whatever. Like everything has a contradiction, and every advice might sound seemingly great. But I don't think any of that matters. I think if you genuinely understand what you're trying to do, you're passionate about what you're doing, and then you understand what you want, you should form your own kind of thing. That's one. And certainly, second, I think I'm terrible at giving advice, so I generally try not to.
That's awesome. And no, that's really good advice. Now, before we keep on going, I want to, like, if people want to reach out to you or they want to learn more about Meter, where can they find you?
Yeah, so simplemeter.com, METER.com. And then to reach out to me is pretty simple. My email is anil@meter.com. I tend to respond to everything that I get.
Awesome.
Folks can send me a note. Happy to talk to folks, respond.
That's so cool. What's next for you? Any big projects or things that you're excited about?
Yeah, we've got some new hardware that's coming out. And as a networking nerd myself, I genuinely think it's some of the best hardware that's being built in the last 40, 50 years in networking.
Oh, that's cool.
So we've got that hopefully.
That's a big statement there.
Yeah, we've got that hopefully coming out sometime this summer, and I think will contribute something great to the field, and especially that's really cool because of how mature and long-standing networking has been for 4 or 5 decades, and I think we can actually like contribute something great to it.
That's really cool. And, that's one thing I was thinking about yesterday. I was having a conversation with someone and they're like, networking's kind of grown stagnant. There hasn't been any major innovations in the last few years. And I kind of think about that. And like, part of me says yes, but part of me is like, there's new stuff coming out every day. networking is constantly evolving, and how we're utilizing the network is changing in big ways, I feel, especially not to throw the buzzwords in there, but like with AI and stuff like that,
Sure.
the demand on the network is greater than ever, which is forcing innovation and new great things. So I'm really excited to see what you guys are coming up with next.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, check out what we have on meter.com. Shoot me a note. Love to hear from folks that like networking.
That's awesome. Again, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your wonderful wisdom with us, and not advice. But thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Dakota.
Absolutely. Everyone, I really hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you got something from it, or if you feel like you got some sort of wisdom, not advice, let me know in the comments down below. Again, thank you so much. And until next time, everyone, keep learning.